start with the name of the podcast. And as much as possible, have that name as succinctly as possible convey what you're sharing and the value it's going to provide.
Most hosts never achieve the results they hoped for. They're falling short on listenership and monetization, meaning their message isn't being heard and their show ends up costing them money. This podcast was created to help you grow your listenership and make money while you're at it. Get ready to take notes. Here's your host, Adam Adams.
And we're back with the podcast on podcasting. I think we're the one and only podcast on podcasting. Or maybe we're just the ones that were smart enough to take the name. I'm your host, Adam, AAA Adams, and Nova Lorainne is with us today. And I'll just tell you, what are you going to get out of this episode? Hopefully what you'll get is just getting a little bit of advice and clarity if you're about to launch a podcast or rebrand a podcast. So you might already have the podcast out and you just did it wrong. I did that too. Don't worry. And it's possible that you're about to launch and you just want to make sure that you do it well. Well, Nova is an expert in product launches. Actually, she's consulted with other companies, business development, brand development, storytelling, figuring out what they're trying to do, and then helping them achieve it so that it is with massive success. And that's what I want for you, is I want you to be able to launch your podcast with massive success. Don't just launch a podcast and have no listeners. Don't just have a podcast. Have a great podcast. I don't even care if you want to make money from your podcast or not. If you don't want to make money, all that means is that you probably, most likely, it's a passion project. And why do a passion project to nobody? You got to do it to somebody, even if you don't want to make money. So you're going to learn something that's going to benefit you. And I'm excited to have Miss Nova Lorainne. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and then we'll jump into the Q&A.
Yeah. So I actually started in academia, pursuing my PhD in clinical psychology before I had the epiphany that I was going to help people through my love of fashion. So I pivoted after getting my master's and went to FIT to study fashion design. And after graduating, I took up studies in entrepreneurship and marketing. 3 years later, I ended up back in New York, launched Nova Lorainne, my fashion company, and won Best Haute Couture of the Year that first year, and then started taking on consulting clients to help them launch their products, either into major department stores or direct to consumer. 5 years into that journey, I had the epiphany of how I was going to bring my love of helping people and fashion together beyond clothing, and Raine Magazine was born. And that's a platform that focuses on discovering, uncovering the hidden gems and the next big names in fashion, culture, and technology. And absolutely love that journey. But that's also brought me to where I am today, which is in the podcast space. And Unleash Your Supernova was the first test. I launched that about a year ago and was nominated for Best Podcast of the Year. And that's expanded into a network called Pink Kangaru, a community of wild thinkers where we help new and emerging podcasters take their podcast to the next level.
That's really, really great. So as far as your podcast, Unleash Your Supernova, you launched it only a year ago, and I was just looking at the podcast. I'm subscribed to your show, by the way, and I was just looking at it a second ago, right before we started recording, and one thing that I noticed is that you have quite a bit more, like just ratings and reviews compared to the average podcast. But now that I know that you only launched it a year ago, it's more than just a little bit more than the average. It's far exponentially higher. Because most podcasts that have only been around for a year have maybe 20 to 30 ratings and reviews, which is, I guess, a little bit depressing, because usually what that means is that they only have 2,000 to 3,000 people that have downloaded their podcast, because it's only like 1 out of 1,000 that usually do the ratings and the reviews. So with your success, I think that that's great. You launched your clothing brand. You were, I guess, designated as the top clothing brand or new clothing brand. What was it?
Yeah, Best Haute Couture Designer of the Year.
Haute Couture. Okay.
Yeah, that was...
I'll have to be honest, Nova. I don't know what couture means.
That's fine. It's actually French. Haute Couture means high
Oh,
dressmaking.
oh, okay. So I was even saying it wrong. I thought you were like the hot
I'll take that
couture,
too. I'll take that too.
not the haute couture. Anyway, so I obviously here I am with my polo shirt on. I am not a fashion
No, you're
person. I
not
don't
with your
wear
polo.
jewelry. So anyway, that's really awesome that you had so much success with that brand as well as your podcast. Before we jump into more questions, would you highlight a client that you've worked with to launch and kind of the success that that client had, regardless of what the product or service was?
Yeah, so I actually worked with the largest private art gallery in the world. They were launching into the China market for the first time. And we were responsible for identifying partners on the ground. What's really interesting is with the nuances of the language there, where one word for us we may use, if let's just say tree, there are maybe 20 or 30 symbols or a combination of symbols that would represent the word tree. And so we had to be very selective in how we told the story about this brand that has been around for a few decades, a family owned business in that market where it would be appealing to them. And one of the ideas that I had come up with was to pair one of the largest Chinese pop stars with a very popular fine artist here in the States, one of the most well known pop icon artists here, together to do a launch event on a cruise in China. And together they conceptualized a painting. She was present with the reveal, and it went extremely well.
Cool. Nice. Well, I might do what I do sometimes when I have an amazing guest like you. And it's this little known secret that I don't want you to know about, Nova, but my
Oh
listener, they
no.
need to learn. So sometimes when you work with a brand consultant, who knows what you're paying? It could be $500 an hour, $10,000 an hour. I don't know. But what I do, this is to the listener, cover your ears, is I try to get the best free advice that I ever could to help me out. And you won't even know about it, Nova. You
I
will
won't.
have no idea that I'm
No idea.
mooching and grabbing all this advice. But the listener, they know because I've done this before. So regardless, I have the podcast on podcasting hosted by or sponsored by or presented by
Yeah.
growyourshow.com. And it's coming to its launch phase as we record. Of course, the listener is already going to see that I took all of your advice and now it's like this massive brand.
That's right.
So I guess the question is, since we're talking about the future, what are some things that you start to look at when working with someone like me to brand and have the right stories, the right questions on the podcast, the right colors, the fonts, the shapes, the sizes, where I market, who I market to, if I'm partnering with this person, buying people's lists, what do I need to do to make sure that this podcast crushes it like your Pink Kangaru clients?
Yeah. So specifically for Pink Kangaru, I start with the host. And every brand, successful brand, starts with an authentic trail that leads right back to the host, their story, their pain points, what they like, their personalities, the things that they gravitate towards. And then it just mushrooms from there. Usually when it becomes adapted by the mass market, we never hear about those details and the weeds of bringing it out to the point where Amazon is today, the owning almost everything. But once upon a time, it was selling books online. And it's a distribution company, but started with books. And so, most people think of Amazon now as the safety net for our food and everything else in our household, but that's where it started. And so I think for every host, it really goes back to why are you doing this? And what value do you feel that you're adding? What is that pain point? And then also surrounding the show and the visuals that represent the show. As we know, the album is one of the most important aspects of our podcast. And the story around the scripting of the show, the format, the intro goes back to the pain points that host is solving. and who they're directing that to. But I think it starts with that psychographic profile of the host or the brand, because you have branded podcasts as well.
So to make sure that I am clear on knowing myself before launching this podcast. So I am passionate about podcasts, but I'm also passionate about mountain biking, red wine from France,
I love it.
my kids,
Mm-hmm.
my sweetheart,
Mm-hmm.
vacationing, CrossFit, and fasting and personal growth. I care about all of these things.
That's right.
So when I'm trying to create a brand or a story brand, and I'm really trying to attract podcasters, and the real reason why is because I want to support the podcaster. I'd really like to be able to help them grow, give them advice, have them share the show, perhaps do their post-production, do a launch for them, or to just do marketing to grow their show and their listener base. That's what the show's about. That's what my goal with the show is. But I also like mountain biking, wine, CrossFit, my kids, my sweetheart, fasting, and all these other things. So where do I start? Because I have so many different interests. When you say start with the host and the interests of the host, am I getting too out there by thinking of my mountain bike or what?
No, well, I think first of all, the name of your show, podcast, a podcast for podcasting, hits it right on the head, right? So the pain point is you want to teach other podcasters how to podcast successfully. And so you started with the name, and a lot of podcasters don't. They sort of take that super important aspect about their show for granted and how powerful that can be to lead and attract listeners. Now let's go into the visual storytelling, and then I'll jump into the formatting and how it relates back to who you are. So from a visual story standpoint, you are adventurous and interested in wellness and growth, like physical fitness, mental fitness. You're a family man. It sounds like you're really committed to your family, your loved ones. And there's something else which is now drawing my attention to your blue shirt.
Was it the wine?
Oh, the wine. And there was one other thing that you said. I'm like, oh, that's why he's wearing that blue polo shirt. But anyway.
I don't remember what I would have said. Oh my gosh.
But I think, for those that are doing video, you would want what you're wearing and what's around you, your backdrop, to represent that story as well. If I'm looking at a video, and most podcasts are audio, but if I'm looking at the video addition to your podcast, I'm going to be looking for something to connect with. And if you are speaking to me, the audience, as you're speaking to yourself, because you're answering a pain point that maybe you experience, then you're going to want to tell me right away that's who you're talking to. Now, let's just say your psychographic profile is completely different than your audience, right? You want to help, let's say, 5-year-old girls learn how to read faster. Well, your background should appeal to that. It should scream that. The name of your show should scream that. There's no one saying that you can't be the teacher of that message, but everything, every piece of copy, text, colors, background should tell that story. And the more you peel the layers and make sure that the story is told with each and every one of those layers, the more quickly your show is going to penetrate the marketplace.
Okay. I'm processing this. If my story is about serving podcasters, like, how much does it matter that I like my kids or my mountain bike or CrossFit or intermittent fasting? Like, am I trying to attract only podcasters that love wine and traveling? Or am I trying to attract all podcasters that want to grow their show and get their show in front of more people and offload the post-production process so they can kind of get it done and work on their business instead of in it? Like, I want to understand the story that I should be telling. Is it, hey, I'm a family man. Hey, I care about personal growth, and talk about those things on the podcast? in spite of just the value of the podcast? What are kind of your thoughts there?
Yeah, no, I think, first of all, great question and really good points that you bring up. And I'll say yes, yes, and yes, because people follow people. Yes, you're providing a service with your podcast, but especially with podcasters and being an audio first medium, people want to fall in love with their host. They want to follow their host. They want to fall in love with their host. And so the more that you can share with them to give them a reason to connect with you on an emotional level, the more you're going to develop a loyal fan base. There are plenty of individuals that are going to podcast hop and go from show to show to show just based on information, based on a keyword. But if you give them a reason to come back to you because for whatever reason you inspire them, they can connect with you, they too are a family man, or this particular host is actually doing a show on personal growth and they feel that they can relate to you from that perspective. I think as many details that you can share that you're comfortable sharing, with your listeners and with your audience gives you a variety of way of making that emotional connection. And the most successful brands are able to tap into our needs, the Maslow laws of needs, right? There are plenty of things that we want, and then there are things that we need. And so if you can give them the reason to say, well, I need this show in my life, then I'm going to download it and I'm going to subscribe. I'm not going to just hope to find it again when I type in the keyword podcast. And so I think, yes, you share those things so they can connect with you and they can trust you. We buy products from companies we trust. Why do companies pay Michael Jordan and all these other famous celebrities to represent their brand? Because we've already developed this relationship with those individuals. We trust them. And so if you can give your listener as many reasons as possible to trust you, then they're going to want to follow your advice, come back and listen, and then share your words of wisdom.
Okay. I'm getting a lot of this. I need to be 100% honest if I'm going to be able to benefit myself or deliver the value to the listener. But first off, one thing that I'm having a hard time racking my brain around or understanding what it even means is I know we were saying we're going to start with a visual and then we're going to go to the formatting. And I know we've been talking about, having the listener of this show be able to know me personally or understand me to the core, to be able to trust me, because they've got to know you and like you before they trust you. So I understand that I'm doing those things by letting them into my life, letting them know that I've got kids and that I'm wearing a polo shirt or whatever. So I understand a lot of that and I'm getting a lot of really good things. One of my favorite things is that you were talking about the podcast hop, which every listener does. They check out an episode or two, and they go to the next one, check out one or two, and the next one. But you got to kind of have something, as you stated, that pulls them back. Give them a reason to come back to your show. And I love that. And the other thing that I got was that I've got to do something on this show. And the listener, I keep forgetting that of course, I'm being selfish, but also we got to help someone. So the listener, they need to find a way to be able to have their avatar, their listener need to come back, need to be on that show. I think that's critical and it makes so much sense. And I never really internalized it that way. With all that said, even though I got all these takeaways, how is that the visual? So I can really nail it down and be able to eloquently express it to the listener or my next friend who comes to me and asking for advice.
Hey, my friend, as you know, this episode is sponsored by my company, GrowYourShow.com. We want you to be able to have the best tools at your disposal without costing you a whole arm and a leg. So right now you can get a free list of vetted equipment that like mics, mixers, webcams, sound treatment, editing software, everything that you need. I created the whole PDF with direct purchase links just to save you time and money, to help it be more convenient for you. So this free PDF will help you skip all the guesswork. If it's on there, it's vetted and approved by yours truly. And if it's not on there, it's probably not worth the money. So go ahead and get yours at growyourshow.com/PDF. Let's get back into the show.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Start with the name of the podcast. And as much as possible, have that name as succinctly as possible convey what you're sharing and the value it's going to provide. And then when you're creating the cover art, the album cover for your show, again, simple is better. Less words are better. Most people are looking at their podcast list from their phone. You want that listener to know the name of your show, what you're trying to portray, what the vibe is you're giving off at a glance. So within seconds, they should walk away from that. And then also, every layer on that podcast should make the person want to go deeper. Does the title make them want to stay and read what's below at the bottom of the cover art? Does the image make them want to read the fine print? Does the image make them want to click? And if the answer is no, then, go back to the drawing board. I love taking an idea and focus grouping it to about 5 people. And then if the majority says, yes, I love it, then I know that it's going to appeal to a broad audience. And I make sure that group is diverse, so I try to have different ages, male, female, that's voicing their opinion about it. Or you can be very specific. If you know your audience are those 5-year-old girls, show it to 5-year-old girls to see, yes, I want my mommy to listen to this podcast, or I want to listen to it with my mommy. So that's on the visual end. You want to really take advantage of all of those aspects that you have. I don't think enough podcasters spend a lot of time or the necessary time to come up with a title that's going to break through, all the competition out there, that's really powerfully conveying who they are and the value they're bringing to their show. So oftentimes we end up going back to the drawing board and redoing album covers, cover art, and redoing titles.
Can I have your permission to put you on the spot, your logo on the spot, your cover art?
Yeah.
So on your cover art, what I absolutely love is that the word "your" stands out from the rest to really pinpoint, your listener or your potential listener. I also like the simple, easy to read fonts. They're not crazy. They're not out of this world. They're easy to read. I also like that you would be able to read it from far away. I also like that the colors and just the look and feel, it's like it stands out from everything else that you've ever seen. The 2 things that I have questions on, and I want to understand, what is the reason behind it, is the color scheme is mostly pink and purple. And so I'm wondering, I'm having to rack my brain. What does this mean? Does it mean she wants to work with more women? Or am I just completely off? Is it because I don't know what a supernova is and they're pink and purple? And of course, you should have known that, Adam. That's the first thing. I just want to talk about the color. And the second thing is the part that says hosted by Evergreen, or it says Evergreen or something. I want to understand what that Evergreen means and who it's attracting, or if it's just a branding because you're part of a group and maybe other people see all of these Evergreen things and that means that they should trust yours. So if you could just help me with those 2 pieces, I think that'll really benefit me and the listener.
Yeah, great questions. So the colors was, very intentional. I wanted the colors to scream creativity.
Okay.
Yes. And I wanted it to be an explosion of color, with the word supernova in the title. I wanted it to be not just one solid color. I didn't want it to be just a simple ombre effect. I wanted to be in your face. This is bold. This is bright. This is colorful. This is creative. And the book, in contrast, is a combination of oranges and really brilliant yellows. And that was also intentional because it's the same graphic pattern in terms of the explosion of color, but I wanted the book to tie more closely to the star and your inner brilliance. And so that's why the change there. But in terms of the evergreen, it is a watermark that represents the network that I am on and that I joined when I launched the show. And yes, what it does is it shows people that there is a third party that's endorsed my brand, and I am a part of a community. And so I am trusted by this third party or a part of a community. Therefore, you can also trust me.
Good stuff. And yeah, love it. Love it. Thank you for letting me put you on the spot there. The next question that I have is the formatting. When you said first it's visual, then it's formatting, are the steps toward, growing your brand. Those two things are about the logo, then your image.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I'm completely with you. Perfect. One of the notes that I made, and it was the reason I made this note is because I recently found out why people watch TV shows and they get hooked into TV shows and they stay in TV shows. And one of them is because they start to feel like they know that character.
Mm-hmm.
They start to need to know what happens with Tom or all the people from the show Friends. Like, you care about these characters, Joey and Rachel and whoever else is on there, Chandler or something, right?
Yeah.
You start to care about them and you want to know what happens with them. I cannot say that I'm an expert at being this thing. I cannot say that I'm an expert, but I will say that I've had many different people from my old podcast. It was a real estate podcast that listened to so many episodes in a row. And I never would have expected they still do listen to those episodes. And what ends up happening is they'll come to me and whatever I'll talk about. Most of the time, what I feel like resonates is if I have a challenge. If I'm having a challenge and I tell people about it, it's like they make a point because I host real estate conferences and things. And there's hundreds and hundreds of people there. And these people that I haven't seen in years come and they're like, oh, hey, how's your dog? I heard about your dog. How's your son doing with this? Or, hey, I heard that you fell down on your bike, mountain biking down the thing. And are you okay? Is your chest because I thought I broke my ribs, which I didn't. I just went to the doctor and got x-rays and paid thousands of dollars for being not really hurt, just feeling like I was hurt, and I didn't get vindicated by the x-rays. Anyway, they're like, how are you feeling? Are you healed? And I really feel like this idea that you gave the listener 5 minutes ago about them wanting to come back and get to know you and mountain biking or wine or whatever it is, it actually does seem to work. It actually does seem to make a difference for people that followed me in the real estate space. And maybe I'm hoping that I can find a way to make it happen in the podcast space. What would be your top advice of how to be authentic or what is oversharing or whatever? What would be your top advice that I could do on this podcast that might be able to help? One day I'll host a podcast conference and I'll have people coming up to me and being like, congrats on losing all the weight, Adam, or whatever it is. What can I do and what's oversharing?
Oh, yeah. Great question with the oversharing. I would say have fun. With formats, there's so many out there. And the most traditional is the one-on-one interview. And if that's not you, then don't do it. I was speaking to a host recently and she said, well, no, I want to actually talk to my listener. I'm a coach and I have all this wisdom. I have all these years of experience. And she was on the road with these major rock stars when she was 19 years old and all this. And she just wants to tell her story and she wants to give people advice following each and every story. So she's just going to talk to the mic and not necessarily follow that traditional format. And that's fun for her. Some people do poetry. And so if reading poetry before and at the end of each show is part of who you are and makes this process fun for you, then do that. Podcasting with the great technology we have now is fairly simple to start. There's software that you can just download on your phone and then hit the record button and off you go. The problem is continuing to podcast, right? The consistency and the quality. And so if you're able to find a way to have fun with your show, that's going to come through. And people are going to feel that energy and they're going to want to be a part of that ride with you each and every show. So I think that's so important. Also, know your strengths and your weaknesses. Podcasting is still an audio-based format. Are you strong speaking into a microphone? Be honest with yourself. And if you want to be that host, then maybe you bring on a co-host that brings out your personality if you tend to be a little shy or has a stronger vocal tone when it comes to, using the mic, and or bring on guests that add that element into your show. So also knowing your strengths and weaknesses. And one of the other things I say is don't be afraid to pivot. If it's not working for you, don't give a dead, boring show. Don't just do it because you said, I'm going to do it, so I got to do it. Pivot. If you're bored, your listener's bored. And so if that means changing the format, if that means changing the topic, and be honest with your listener. Everyone has the same pain points, general pain points. We all want to eat. We all want to feel loved. We all want to feel safe. And people understand when things change in your life. And so share that with them. When I was doing my show and, the lockdown happened, I pivoted to wellness shows and mindset shows. And so I wasn't doing feature stories about the life of and the challenges that these individuals are going through. I was bringing on experts that can help individuals have a stronger chance of getting through the situation mentally and physically. And that's what I was passionate about at that time. And so the content changed. And so I would say, don't be afraid to pivot when needed. Make sure you're always having fun. And when it stops being fun, stop and ask why. And what can you do to make it fun again? And maybe sometimes it's time to hang up the hat. I think another thing podcasters don't realize is that you can have a serial show. You can say from jump that I'm only doing 6 episodes. I'm only doing a series of 12. And when it's done, it's done. And that's it. And your show will live on as long as it's hosted by your favorite platforms. Your show is there and listeners can come back to it over and over again. So don't feel like this when you jump into podcasting, it's going to be the rest of your life, so you can come up with a start point and an end point and be, satisfied with that. And that works really well around your brands, around if you're doing a podcast around a product launch or to support your brand.
I think I've gotten my thousands of dollars of value so far. And so there's a couple of things that I want to talk about that I think are going to be really valuable for the listener as we kind of wrap up and come to a close on the episode. But I will repeat just a couple of things that you said that seem to really be powerful. One of them is just to know your strengths ahead of time, just to understand. The other one was to have fun, to enjoy your podcast. And it seems like that's really what's going to allow other people to be into your world is when you're in your element and you're being yourself. Some people might not like you, but the people that do, they really will like you. They'll really be attracted to your personality. And the third one was not to be afraid to pivot. You mentioned that you could do a serial type podcast. You mentioned that you could do, or maybe I was just thinking of it, but I think you might have mentioned that you could do like seasons, do season 1, pivot for season 2, pivot for season 3. And so all of that was really, really good. The couple of things that I definitely want to ask you about is, number one, I want to really understand what made you so successful with your podcast in such a short amount of time. So I'm trying to think of like your interview style, what you do on your show, if you are interviewing, if it's all solo, how you promote it. So I want to go there. And then I want to understand what Pink Kangaru is. Your podcast, by the way, is Unleash Your Supernova. So in a minute, I hope we can get a brief amount about like what Pink Kangaru is with the limited amount of time that we have. But it is also going to be important. Your show, do you do interviews? Yes or no?
Yes.
Do you only do interviews? Yes or no?
At the moment, yes.
So are you planning on maybe possibly pivoting and doing solos?
Yes, I think I'm going to introduce solos.
And your podcast grew a lot, and that was when you were doing interviews. So do you think it's because you had like really good questions that really were powerful for your avatar and you were thinking about their pain points and they were scripted and you did them every single time because you knew these were what worked? Or was it a little bit different and you were kind of bending with the wind, going with the flow, and just having a good time and finding value out of the conversation? What was it, somewhere in the middle or polarized opposite?
I'm kind of laughing because I'm like, whoa, he knew that exactly. So initially, there were planned scripted questions that have been addressing the pain points of the listener. And I presented the questions ahead of time to my guests. And I also had guests that tended to be entertaining on the mic, so I had individuals that were comedians or actors, also entrepreneurs as well. But as entrepreneurs, a lot of entrepreneurs know that they are networking, they have to be in the spotlight, they're being interviewed a lot, and that brings a lot of public relation training on the go. So it happened that my first set of shows were energetic based on the guests that I had. I then pivoted season 2 to changing the format and going more go with the flow and finding value. But with all of the shows, I really try to incorporate storytelling. We remember as kids, I have children, I love reading stories to them. They still remember stories that I've read and made up. And there are stories we have just from our experiences that we share, throughout our life. And people remember stories. And so I want to make sure that no matter what I choose to do, that storytelling is always a good part of that. But now I'm definitely doing more go with the flow, get the value, get the laughs. Let's be relaxed. Let's see where the conversation goes. But I do at the beginning of each show know what I want the listener to get out of it as well.
So one of the things, if we had another hour or so, I would just pick your brain about stories only, just how to find the stories, what to do with stories. I think that would be a lot of fun. So probably just have you on again.
Yeah.
But to end this episode today, why don't you just share with us what Pink Kangaru is? I'm actually thinking that I want to be part of it or sponsor it at least, but
Yes.
it sounds awesome, and everything that you do really turns out to be awesome. You have this superpower, Supernova. But just kind of thinking about the Pink Kangaru, is this a hosting platform for podcasters? Do you do post-production for podcasters? Do you do marketing? I mean, how does it benefit us? I assume we have to pay. How does it benefit us to be part of Pink Kangaru?
Yeah, so Pink Kangaru, and that's kangaroo with a U at the end for those that are checking us out, Pink Kangaru with a U. It's a platform that brings hosts and listeners together that are like-minded. And as I mentioned earlier, it's a community of wild thinkers. So individuals that think outside the box, that are on a journey of growth. We focus on creative entrepreneurs, individuals that are aspirational, that are really looking to enhance their experiences and to find that home where each of the shows tap into either a component that's going to entertain them, educate them, or inspire them. And that's how we curate our shows as well. We look for hosts that we feel are excellent storytellers that can either educate, entertain, or inspire others.
So I'm screwed. I'm never going to be able to be part of Pink Kangaru because I don't know how to tell stories.
Well, first of all, you're excellent and you are great at podcasting. It's a gift. And I think you would be amazing on the network because we're looking for great hosts and you're offering such an amazing service to teach individuals how to be successful podcasting. Everyone has a story to tell. And why can't everyone tell that story? Why can't everyone learn how to be an amazing podcaster? And so I love the fact that you're sharing this information to individuals that are looking for it. And I remember when I dove into this journey, I spent hours and hours researching. And then at the end of the day, you start getting dizzy and not knowing, well, who do I listen to? Where do I start? And so to have a go-to place like your show, I think is amazing. So yes, you do fit in very well. And to answer your other questions regarding post-production and marketing, we have a team, a community of partners that we've also curated that we can give access to our members at a preferred rate. And so we want you to be successful. Our focus is curating amazing content for our listeners and getting the word out there about Pink Kangaru so our hosts can get as much value as they can from our platform and our listeners can get the best content. And for those that need that additional support as it relates to starting up a brand new show, we are there for them on the branding side. And on the post-production side, we have amazing partners that we can connect them with.
Nova, thank you for coming on the show. I had fun sitting down with you and having a little conversation and all that free advice for my show. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I need to jump off and go to my next event. So all I want to say is to the listener, Pink Kangaru, that link is in the show notes and it's spelled the way that it needs to be spelled with a U. And additionally, Unleash Your Supernova, you can click on that link as well to go ahead and start subscribing to her show. Thank you, Nova. I'm going to let you go.
Much.
We'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.
By the way, one way to ensure that you don't miss out on great content that we're producing on a regular basis is to make sure you're subscribed to the show. You need to be subscribed or following the Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to it in order not to miss all of that. And before I let you go, I need to mention, because a lot of people are asking, do you help? Can you help me with this? And the answer is yes. My company actually does it. It's called Grow Your Show. And you can find that at growyourshow.com. Our clients, they call us the easy button for podcaster because they simply have to record their episode. And they know that every single thing else is done for them. We sweat the hard stuff so you can be the star of your show. And if you would like help to make sure that we're editing and publishing and promoting and doing your social media, it's all in one place. And I think it's pretty affordable. You'll have to take a look for yourself. Just go to growyourshow.com and check us out. And by the way, I'll see you on the next episode.